Hi, everybody. David Oleski here with the Rittenhouse Square Fine Art Show 5 o'clock club, broadcasting live from the home office in Deerfield, Illinois, of all places, where it's actually only 4 o'clock, but we're going to pretend it's 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time for today's broadcast. Today's guest is Leanne Moss. I'm going to be meeting her as much as you are. I only just briefly met her a few weeks ago at the another show, and looking forward to having a talk with her. So she's going to be on here in a second, and we'll bring her on. Oh, there we are. And there we go. What a beautiful day. Oh, there you
Hi.
are. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
I'm good. So I'm in Deerfield, Illinois right now for the a big show in Highland Park.
Huh? Have you been there before?
Yes, I've been here many, many, many times. This is one of I did this one of the first years I was doing shows, and I love coming back to Chicago, the northern suburbs. Just, it's great. We just arrived this afternoon, and just the light's different, the time zone, the air is different, everything. It's just, and it's a fun time to be here, end of summer. This always feels like the absolute end of my summer is coming to this show. Oh, your voice cut out.
When did you start doing shows?
Wait, okay, I started doing shows in very end of
Okay.
'99.
All right.
So
You're
my first year going full tilt was 2000, which was the first time I ever did Rittenhouse.
okay.
And yeah, I figured out some things over the years.
Yeah, that's great.
How long have you been doing shows?
I started in 2021, so I'm still very new on this journey. And I'm down in Virginia, so I started really with kind of a mix of a farmer's market one day
Oh,
in Colonial Williamsburg.
I know.
After stuff started opening back up, and kind of figured out what Zapplication is, found the art fair lounge, found the whole world of art shows because I had no idea this even existed. And then the first like juried show that I did was the art section of the Neptune Festival down at the Virginia
Right,
Beach border.
right.
And Sharon Tanner, bless her heart, took a chance on me because I did not have a booth shot at the time. I was sending her pictures of just crap hanging on my wall, and it just hasn't arrived yet. So it's just been a learning curve since then, just trying to get better and get my presentation better and my work and framing and you
Right.
know. Yeah,
Yeah. We all have horror stories of our first booths.
yeah.
I run some other events, and I've had a bunch of exhibitors show up with their first booth, and even though you're trying to guide them, you're laughing to yourself, realizing this isn't that different than what I looked like my first time out.
Yeah, I had white grid walls for all of one show. And I said, to hell with that. We are not. I used soft walls for a while, and then last year bought pro panels, and
Yeah.
and that's really helped elevate.
Yeah. Well, you went pro a lot sooner than I did. I put off getting pro panels until probably 20. Yeah, I think 2020 or yeah. I mean, I was really late in the game that I stepped up on the advice and demands of my wife. I decided to go pro. But for the longest time, I had some rigged together system that worked well enough. But I'm glad I made the leap.
All
Oh, your voice cuts out. I'm sorry.
I might have to go downstairs. I am in the middle of the country, and our signal is questionable, so I can always.
Oh,
Yeah. We're on a 200-acre farm, and we just got internet summer before last. Yeah, I'm not making this up. So if I need to go downstairs, I think there's better signal. We can do that. I don't mind.
okay.
Just give me a shout.
All
Um,
right. Let's see how it goes.
yeah, we'll see how it goes. Um, but yeah, for me, I needed to get a big vehicle to put said pro panels
Oh, yeah.
in. So that all happened at that was a game changer for me.
Good, good. So, what's your experience with the Rivendell Square show?
Well, technically, this was my first year doing it. I had applied.
You did it in June?
I was there in June. That was my first time, and I had applied the last couple of years and wasn't accepted yet. But I did participate in the. I don't know if it was a mock jury. It wasn't quite a mock jury, but it was like a Zoom informational booth thing, and
Right.
it was. I
Well,
really.
so that was helpful for you?
It was extremely helpful.
Okay, so this is a good thing for anybody watching, that if you're interested in jurying in the show, we have all kinds of resources for potential exhibitors that you can learn a lot about what it is we're looking for and how to do the best job you can. You know, and I think you can find that on the website within artist resources, I'm sure in one of the drop down menus. So good. I'm glad that worked for you.
Yeah, it was really invaluable because you got to see real booth shots from other people that had generously donated their photos. Because you're kind of going at it blind when you're new. You have no idea. I mean,
Right.
my first picture of my wall with no booth. So that was helpful and helped me, kind of accelerate a little bit.
That's good. I mean, we always get like catalog pictures of a booth that they saw on the website, and it's like, well, there's a booth shot.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, well, okay, that you're right, that is. That's not really, your work in the booth, but we try to be patient and realize that a lot of people are just like you, are just figuring this out, flying by the seat of their pants.
Yeah.
So June was your first time doing it. Did you enjoy it? You're coming back. I guess it wasn't a disaster.
Month, it was a really great, um, the way it was run and organized was awesome. I was very apprehensive. Like I said, we live in the middle of nowhere. So to go to a major in the big van, I had a lot of English, but it all flowed really
So
well.
one thing, so all the viewers out there, is her voice breaking up for you as well, or is it just for me that your voice is breaking up? I'm in a hotel on their Wi-Fi, and I don't know if that's what the problem is. I mean, my voice isn't breaking up when I hear myself talking, and I guess that's a good thing. But everybody out there, if you could chime in and let me know, is her voice breaking up a little bit? I'm missing like half of every sentence here. So
Travel.
go to, yeah, travel a little bit.
Yeah.
Go to,
Okay, here we
oh,
go.
okay, here we go. So somebody said yes, breaking up. Thank you so much for that.
That's my
All right.
big. I appreciate you. All right. Well, we'll get the whole house tour here.
All right. Yeah, somebody else, yes, breaking up. So we're crowdsourcing our solutions here.
Okay, no problem. We will make it work.
Yeah. So you get to sit up on the roof or something, get closer to the
Yeah.
satellite, maybe.
Yeah. I think this is a better spot. Let me know once I get here if that's working
Yeah.
for you.
It hasn't broken up yet, so maybe it is.
All right, great. Well, we're on my porch, so
What a wonderful porch.
I know. Yeah, yeah. This is yeah. We live so we're in my great grandmother's house on my family's farm. So heat and air and internet are all questionable at
Right,
best.
right. Yeah. I mean, they
Yeah,
were probably Luddites up until not very long ago. I think electricity was run just in the last
yeah,
decade. But
yeah. You got it.
so this was your first show in the middle of a big city.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. The most pop. I mean, we did a show in Richmond, and we went down to Florida this past winter. That was the first time we had traveled that far, so that was really cool. But yeah, I mean, going to Philly and downtown, I was Google Street Map walking around the block for months, trying to figure out, okay, here's my booth, here's Walnut. I'm gonna make a left. My husband thinks I'm crazy, but by the time I got there, I'm like, oh yeah, I know what this is. I've been here. On the map. So that helped. I overplanned, but it works out.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually one of the easier shows to do just because it is spread over 3 days. We do have a setup on Thursday, and it's compared to some of the shows I have coming up where we're setting up at some wacky hour in the morning. We have to all be in line in order and just drop off, and then
Right.
it's a free for all on parking, and then figure out how you're getting back to set up. And
Right.
it's just the stuff of
It
nightmares.
is.
And Rittenhouse is pretty easy once you're set up, and then just figure out your parking, and if you can stay in the city and be on foot is great.
Right. Right. Yeah, the staggered setup times, I suggest that to other shows often because it really makes it stress-free for you and your neighbor, knowing that
Yep.
they're not going to be there until the afternoon or vice
Right.
versa. Yeah.
Yeah. As opposed to the show I'm doing this weekend, I have to wait in line to get my packet, and that's everybody on the one street gets their packet at the same time, and then it's
Oh my
just
God.
a stampede of everybody just has saying go right at like 5:30 at night.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's
Brutal.
stressful. It never goes fast. It's never smooth,
Right, right.
but somehow we make it worth it. So
Yeah.
we'll make it worth it.
Yeah. Well, if you've gone back that many times, yeah, it must be worth it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So did you get a chance to spend much time in Philadelphia
Um,
City?
just the beautiful La Quinta Inn by the airport, 10 out of
Oh,
10.
nice.
But no, we did we didn't. We tried to get a table at Park, I think, on Sunday. So we're gonna revisit that this trip. Kate Fitzpatrick, shout out, she had recommended it, but we will
Okay.
try again this time. But no, we didn't see anything, man. We saw the Cracker Barrel by the hotel, and, and we were on the
Well,
road.
make reservations. It's restaurant week, so you'll have a
Right.
hard time just walking into any
Oh,
restaurant.
good.
But make reservations, and I can give you some ideas. I mean, it's a total foodie town.
Yeah.
We biggest reason we go is for the food. I mean, there's so
Right.
many great restaurants in every direction, including Park.
Right.
So yeah, and then of course there's the art museums. I don't know if you've ever tuned in, but I can go on and on about the Philadelphia Museum of Art, and then the
Yeah.
Rodin Museum is a collection of Rodin sculptures that
Oh, wow.
rivals the Mausoleum in Paris, and
Wow.
then and the Barnes Foundation is just an epic, eclectic collection of works from just a wealthy art patron purchased a huge amount of work, and the Philadelphia Museum wouldn't accept any of it, so he made his own
Wow.
museum, and the entire collection was kept intact and moved into the city. And that's kind of a contentious thing. There's a movie made called The Art of the Steal, saying that Philadelphia City stole this collection to make it part of their museum collection.
Yeah.
But it's still
Wow.
spectacular and worth
Right.
seeing. So if you can get extra day on one end or the other
Yeah.
of the weekend just to see some of the
Yeah.
museums.
Yeah. We need to see something. We need to see the mall, the history stuff. I mean, we have the Bell. We saw nothing, but we'll be back, so we'll try to squeeze some stuff in for sure.
Good,
Yeah.
good. So tell me about your work.
Well, I'm an oil painter. I studied art back at Marymount University in Arlington, which is in Virginia. Finished up there in 2012 and didn't really do much for professionally for 10 years. I mean, I would paint for myself and was painting mostly in acrylic at the time. And pandemic rolled around, which my husband and I, we were getting married in April of 2020, which
Nice.
you can imagine how that
Good,
went.
good timing.
Oh yeah, it was freaking terrible. So we postponed for 6 months, and it all, went according to plan eventually. But it was just a lot of anxiety for everybody, right? So I had just been painting a lot that year to kind of distract myself. And towards the end of 20, I kind of set a goal for myself by January 1 of 2021. I wanted to have a website launched. I wanted to figure out how to do print reproductions. I wanted to switch back over to oil, which I had done some in college, oil painting, but just for, I don't know, for ease or something, I had gone back to acrylic. So I kind of got that rolling, and I had mentioned, I got kind of my first go at the Neptune Festival and discovered application and just kind of ran with it from there. But my work now is it's oils on canvas. And it is very much scenes of my home, which is Isle of Wight County in Virginia. We're about 45 minutes to an hour west of Virginia Beach, so we're very close to like Carolina down here,
Right.
but very rural. I come from a family of farmers. We've been here for hundreds of years, and so I'm very sentimental about the farm where we live. We moved here, my husband and I, in 2019, just at the end. So that's really what's inspiring my work now, anyway. And we're also very coastal. So you'll see in my booth, there's a lot of marsh scenes and wildlife, but a lot of farm scenes, fields, and a lot of old, simple outbuildings, you know, that a farmer would probably have constructed with him and his neighbor, that kind of thing. That's these wooden buildings that are still around the county, but maybe deteriorating. So I like capturing that kind of stuff. We are here in the county, one of the fastest growing counties in Virginia. So I think Lancaster can probably appreciate this. I had some people last weekend when we were at Mount Gretna that were kind of saying the same thing, where there's just a lot of development, for better or worse, right? So you see these farms disappearing. And I don't know, for me, I just have this kind of reportage mindset where I feel like I need to document this stuff before it's gone. And big emphasis on light, you know, texture, but really a big play with the light and shadows in my work to make it extra dynamic for, you know, the person looking at it. But that's kind of it in a nutshell. Yeah.
So one of our followers, You Can Sketch, says loves Virginia and the South and South Carolina.
Yay.
But so I have two questions. One, in your art school education, was that based on painting, and specifically was that academic tradition, or was that more just being creative? Did you do landscape painting then?
That's a good question. Not that I don't know the answer to it, but it's a timely question. So it was just a bachelor's of arts. It was not an art school. You can't even get a degree in art there anymore as of last year, which is a whole other side topic. But I was painting then. That was my focus. Heavy on art history. Could have probably minored in that, but I actually went there as a merchandising major. They had a big fashion program.
Wow.
And middle of my sophomore year, I switched over to art. I had a lot of stuff going on in my personal life, and I was just seeking art as a refuge. And in my painting courses, I had a lot of my peers commenting during critiques that all of my paintings have trees in them. And I hadn't made a conscious choice to do that. It just ended up that way. And at the time, my grandmother, who was on the property here, was still with us. And I just found myself painting a lot of scenes of the family farm subconsciously. And it's neat that now, you know, 12 years later, that's kind of what my body of work is. And I ended up moving here and living here, which is, it's really sentimental. But no, it was kind of a broad program, like I said, but you know, had a really good architectural design drafting course, which I actually signed up for by mistake. I thought at the time, I don't know what I thought at the time, but it was like CAD drawings, but we were doing it by hand, right? And that has actually really served me well now for linear perspective and some of these buildings. But yeah, it was really funny that worked out that way. Went to Greece for a month, and we did handmade book arts and oil painting. So a lot of plein air, alla prima stuff. That was awesome and invaluable. I mean, their light there is just incredible. But yeah, so I finished with an art degree. I did absolutely nothing with it professionally. That wasn't even a thought that occurred to me. I don't know. I guess they don't teach you how to make a living at such a thing. Like, what a preposterous idea to get an art degree. But yeah, this was all, I mean, really just in the last few years that I didn't even know that these art, I'd always heard of like the Boardwalk Art Show because it's local to where I am and things like that. But I didn't realize you could do this and make a living. So that's just been really eye-opening.
So you have a shout out from one of your collectors, Katie Lee Spencer, says she has many of your prints and she's happy to have caught you live here.
She's my neighbor. She's like a couple farms that way.
Oh, nice.
That's great.
Represent local.
Yeah.
But, you know, I had a similar experience in art school that I completely fell out of it and didn't even give it a second thought. And it never occurred to me that it could be, you know, a lucrative income.
Right.
And over the years, I've kind of realized why they wouldn't teach you to do that while you're in school, because it could easily derail your studies if you were actually making sales of the work that you're supposed to be self-objective and self-critical of to keep improving.
Right. Yeah. It would totally, I mean, you just need to learn the bones of it, right? Like design and composition and color and value, all the things that have still served me well now.
Right.
But at the time, you know, they say education is wasted on the young. I wish I'd taken it a little more seriously in hindsight, but you know, here we are, we made it.
Well, yeah. I mean, I thrived on the discipline. I mean, I studied with the academy tradition of drawing from classical sculpture and still life and
Yeah.
interiors and color
Yep.
theory. And I thrived on the discipline of the self-objectivity, the self-critique, learning how to, monitor everybody's progress and understand everybody's challenges and what they're all learning and knowing how to apply that to myself. And that's what I use all the time now.
Right.
So,
Right.
I took it as seriously as I could while being a young, stupid kid.
Same. Very stupid, very young.
Yeah, it's amazing we survived.
Isn't it? Man, I tell you.
So
Especially,
my second
yeah.
question to your current work now, how much of it is from reference
Yeah.
images and how much of it is plein air?
It's all from reference. It just depends on if it's from either a sketch that I kind of either imagined or did from observation or from a photo reference. There's a big marsh in my booth right now, and that was an imagined scene, but based on the waters around where we are. We kayak a lot through here. We have a lot of different rivers that feed off of the Chesapeake Bay, so we do that quite a bit. So that I knew what I wanted to do, and that was kind of a first for me. And it's a 48 by 60, so it was kind of risky to go that big,
Oh yeah.
but it worked out. And then a lot of the stuff that are scenes of our farm, it's a lot of observation, a lot of just looking at it to get color theory, like you said, and design stuff from observation. And I'll just take a ton of photos, and I manipulate a lot of my reference to really get the composition and the values to what I want before I get going. So there's a lot of planning and preparation with my reference. It's not usually spontaneous at
Right.
all. I like plein air painting, and if I ever had more time in my week, I would probably do more of it where I could set it up and do it. But right now, that's just not in the cards.
Right. I mean, I feel the same way. I've done very, very little plein air
Yeah,
painting, and to me, it's a
yeah,
luxury, but it's not as productive as far as
right.
what I can do in my controlled studio.
Right. Yeah, I can crank something out. I'm pretty quick, in 1 or 2 sittings, I can usually get it there to almost completion, which I like working wet on wet, in oils. I don't want it to dry up before, and then I got to go back and oil it out or, anything like that. So I want it really to be done if I can in one sitting, which would be great. And like I said, I'm pinched on time, so I have to be economical with what I'm doing and spend a lot of time, sometimes weeks and months, just planning what my next piece is going to be. And then once it's brushed to canvas, I kind of know what I'm doing. I've made a roadmap for myself, so to speak, and I can try to knock it out.
Do you revisit images in different scales or from different perspectives?
Yes, I have, especially like these architectural pieces. So barns, there's certain barns that are maybe more, what's the word I'm looking for, well known in our area, or maybe it's a barn on our place, our property, different seasons, winter versus summer, bare trees versus lots of green and it's summer, that kind of thing. Or there's a schoolhouse up the road from us, and it's a Rosenwald schoolhouse, and it's one of the last African American schoolhouses that's still standing
Mhm.
in our county.
All
So I
right.
had painted that a few years ago, and was recently commissioned to do another piece of it. They're hopefully going to restore it,
All
is
right.
what it's going to be. So that was really neat. I was honored to be asked to do that. So those sorts of things, yes, different times of day. The marshes, there's a particularly good place on the Pagan River in Smithfield as you're walking into a park that we have where the light is exceptional and it's always different. Like the sky just looks different all the time. So I
All right.
painted that probably all 4 seasons, which is fun.
So a question came up. Do you use Pixel Meter Pro to manipulate your paintings?
Not usually. I use Photoshop and Lightroom primarily, and then normally I'll do a thumbnail sketch first,
All
pencil on
right.
paper, cool, and figure out. I simplify a lot. It's deciding, okay, what am I going to keep in this composition versus what isn't aiding my design, right? And just keeping it structurally pretty simple. Good
So
question, though.
your work
Thank
is very designed. Like who are you fans of? Whose work do
you.
you look up to?
Well, my contemporaries, I did a demo with Stephen Walker out of Georgia back in 2020 once I reintroduced myself to oils, and that was fantastic. His subject matter is similar to mine. We're both in a rural place, and his use of color and light is exceptional. And then people like David Dibble, he's out in Utah, I believe. Don't quote me on that, but he does a lot of farm scenes, but they're very narrative, which is something I'm trying to incorporate more of in my work, where, like, yes, it's a pretty picture, it's a sunset, but to have something a little more dialed in where it's telling a story without me having to literally tell the story in my booth, right, where it can speak on its own. But he's doing a lot of interesting stuff with light. He also does a lot of his reference design, and Stephen too, a lot of digital reference prior to, and by digital I mean taking his own reference and then just manipulating it in a way that is telling the story they want to tell. So it's kind of where I'm at the beginning of all this, so I'm trying to find my voice and, like, what the heck am I trying to say? I don't know yet, but we're figuring it out, piece by piece.
Yeah. So you were mentioning the light in Greece.
Yeah.
Are you do you notice the light in different parts of the country? Like I went to art school in Baltimore. Whenever I drive past Inner Harbor on my way south, I'm always reminded of that milky light because of proximity to the water.
Yeah.
That either was the reason I painted or the reason I paint the way I paint, just the quality of light.
I notice when it's unobscured and it's just a big flood of light. So maybe not characteristics that make it unique to that area, but like where we are, we're on just over 200 acres here, and there's trees in the distance in the perimeter, but it's very wide open in the middle. So we just get a wash of light everywhere. Where if I were to go into town or like somewhere close by, like Virginia Beach, it's very obscure. There's a lot of buildings. There's a lot more going on. So I noticed that, but not geographic light. So I'm not there yet.
Right. There's a good friend of mine. He does workshops in Italy and in the north of Spain, and the light that he captures is very much the light of those places. I was actually at one of the places where he did one of his paintings, and I could tell this crisp, bright, harsh white light, and it's just fascinating, that he's able to capture that at different places. Brian Murphy is his name.
Yeah,
I'm going.
that's my
Yeah,
buddy.
you might have seen him at Rehoboth.
Yeah, he is pretty local to where we are. He's in Newport News, Virginia, so he is about 30 minutes from here. We bump into each other all the time. Yeah, he's excellent.
Oh yeah, he is. And we talk at length about light and the color of light, and so to me that's fascinating. It's just that all landscape painters have this palette that has to do with the sky.
Right. Yeah.
So, quick question: do you ever do the show in historic Williamsburg, colonial Williamsburg?
Yes.
What's it called? Occasion for the Arts.
It's the first year that I've gotten in.
What?
So take that.
This year?
Yeah. So I'll be
yeah.
there. It's the first weekend in October, I believe.
It's the weekend that straddles the end of September and October 1st.
Yeah.
And I'm doing it for the first time.
Kidding.
So
yeah. Williamsburg's great. There's also a one-day show in the spring put on by the Women's League. That's actually a really nice show too. We were there. It's on the same, Duke of Gloucester little area. But yeah, I'm excited. I think Robin is directing that, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yes, she is. Yeah, I know her really well from years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, she does a great job. So excited to be there.
Yeah. So have you? So you say you did some shows in Florida, but mostly you're pretty local to where you are. You haven't made it north to like Westport or New York.
Not yet, but I hear it's popping in the Hamptons. I gotta go, man.
Oh,
I just haven't gone to Philly. Yeah. We've been there, Delaware. We just saw you the other weekend there, and North Carolina and Florida. So some Maryland stuff. We're working there, but yeah.
Good. And the Midwest is great. Although they're as far as landscape, they are very aware of what landscape looks like here, and they specifically want to see images of here.
Right. That's interesting.
But you never know. I mean, I'm going to see Brian Murphy this weekend, and he keeps coming back. So obviously, people like images of Europe. So
right. Yeah, it's neat because with my husband, we'll go do stuff on the coast because obviously we're in a coastal area, and he's like, "Oh, you need to do some beach paintings." I'm like, "That's just not me. Like, not knocking coastal stuff. It's just not what I'm called to do right now, right?" And then we'll get there, and people are telling me stories of their great granddaddy's barn on, in Ohio or upstate New York, or it's just really interesting to hear their interpretation of some of this stuff. So And it's also kind of an I told you so to my husband, like, no, it'll be fine. Like, just
Oh
wait it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And there's an artist from Ohio, Gary Strittar,
Mm,
and he's
yeah.
like it's a whole family of artists. All the sons are amazing painters, and he does scenes of Ohio, and there's like Flemish master realism of farms on a field and just a
Right.
muted color, and it's just stunning. I've never seen Ohio look as beautiful as in one of his paintings.
Right. Right. Well, good. It's not looking worse than, real life. That's good. Yeah.
Well, we just drove through Ohio just this last night and this morning, and we don't get a good view of it from Interstate 80, but he makes it look just charming and lovely.
Yeah.
So I
Good.
guess almost anywhere the barns can have a poetry to them.
There's something about the fact that a lot of times now outdoor farm buildings are metal. A lot of these like aluminum kit buildings that people will
Yeah.
put up. So seeing like old wooden structures, I think it just really dates themselves, and they're not built like they used to be, which is such a trite thing to say, but it's true.
Well, and just the decay that they wind up with,
Yeah,
they swagger with an angle to them, and
right,
and then they used to align them in certain directions based on morning light. And,
right.
I think it's not as slapdash as it is
Yeah.
now that there'd be odd angles. And, yeah.
Yeah. We we used to have a lot of outbuildings on this property, and we had a tornado come in 2014 and took out a lot of them. Some of them were taken down on their own accord, but we've got one left, which is our smokehouse out back, which is ironically in this very old painting behind me that I'm not proud of. I just ended up in the porch, so here we are.
Oh,
But it's
I see that. Yeah. Wow.
even more askew now, and things are falling apart. But that's 100 years old smokehouse, and it's just got so much character to it because it's so snaggletooth.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a good friend that used to be in Rochester, New York, and Richard Harrington. If you Richard C. Harrington. If you look him up, his work is just stunning. He does a lot of landscapes, but he also really embraces barns as these monumental structures, and they're almost like wolf con colors, and then just the way everything vibrates
Yeah,
and the luminosity of the different qualities of light,
yeah,
and this
yeah.
charming work.
It
Yeah.
is. I mean, and you can do a lot, developing a scene with the barn. And I mean, there's so much texture. And God help you if the light hits right and you got the shadow reverberating off of the light side on that same wall, and you get that kind of line of almost like a ochre yellow. I mean, it's just awesome. I don't
Yeah.
know. That's stuff that just excites me. If I see a good barn and I'm traveling, like if I can safely slam on the brakes and get a photo, I will try my best to do it, but don't recommend doing it.
So your work is very realistic, I'll say.
Right.
That it's right. It's very it's rendered in a way that really does respect realism. Does it start more abstract?
That's a good question. Well, I start with a big brush, right? If I got a big thing to cover in a certain amount of time, I start with a big brush just so I can overcome that big white canvas staring back at me.
Right.
And then I'll fine tune it, eventually going smaller brush and then maybe ending with a little bit of palette knife. I enjoy working quick for a lot of reasons, but you get a lot of spontaneous brushwork, and you can kind of see, if you get close, you can see the energy maybe in my brushwork, where I don't want it to look photorealistic, right? Like there's excellent artists that do that. I'm just not one of them. I want to be some kind of
Right.
texture and looseness in it. And you can't do that. I mean, I could. Sometimes I have to tell myself, like, no, you can stop now. Like, don't keep working. Maybe step away. Um, like I said, I'm still figuring it all out. But I would say big shapes. I'm putting in. Sometimes I'll do like a really interesting wash across the whole painting, just to give it, like, if it's a sunset piece. I did a really interesting one with a combine picking cotton, and it was backlit, and the sun was just behind the tree. So I did a wash in acrylic, actually, of kind of a cad orange, maybe, because I wanted it to dry really fast because I'm impatient. And then went back and painted the scene in oil, but like took the end of the paintbrush and kind of scratched back into the tree so you get those little dots
Right.
of glow.
Right.
So, I'm just kind of playing around with my technique
Yeah.
some still, but I want to keep it loose, right? I don't want it to
Right.
be photographic. Yeah.
Good. Good. Well, hasn't been any questions coming up. Anything else you feel like talking about?
Well, I'm just honored to be here, honestly. Like I said, I just started this whole journey of mine, and my husband and my dad both have been super supportive. My dad built out my van. If we do a local show, he is there setting up and breaking down with us every weekend. And my husband is traveling as much as he can for all of our shows. So they definitely have helped launch me to where I'm at. But I am super excited to be back next month. I wasn't sure if I was going to be there, and Chris called me. I'm like, hell yeah, man, let's do it.
Yeah, it should be like
Yeah.
a support group for these spouses of artists, for all
Oh
the
my
ones that are
God.
there to help set up, that are patiently just wading through all of our foibles and odd.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then here's somebody saying, "May we see one of your pieces?" Oh, somebody here would like
Cool.
to actually see. Well, I'm going to include a
Oh,
link to her profile in the comments here, so you'll be able to see her old profile. But I don't know if you want to just carry your camera here and just show something real quick.
yeah. Well, like I said, we're on my porch. This is not a anything I would put in my booth at this moment, but this is just a rough painting from, gosh, 5 or 6 years ago of our backyard. And it's our old smokehouse that was like turn of the century. And yeah, but like you said, there's a whole lot better stuff to look out there on my website, either leannemossart.com, or I'm sure he'll link over to.
And of course, you have to come to the Rittenhouse Square Fine Art Show to see the work in person in Philadelphia.
Way better in real life. I'm on 18th Street, I believe. I need to figure out what my booth number is. That's kind of important, but yeah, I can't wait to be back.
Yeah, and do you think you're going to be in the same spot you were in the spring?
No, I was on, I think it's Walnut, the street that faces the church. I was there.
Right, right.
So I think I am on parallel street from where I was. So I believe I'll be facing Park. I'll be on that road. Don't.
Right. Yeah, I'm moved from where I was. And so everybody out there, if you're coming to the show, you need to
Yeah,
check the website because I think half of the booth locations have been scrambled to other locations just to
right.
freshen the show a little bit.
Yeah.
So you may not find your favorite exhibitor where you remember them being, and you might need to, heaven forbid, walk the entire show to
And you
look
got to
for
walk the
them.
whole show. You
Yeah, you
don't
got
know
to
what you're
walk
going
it
to.
anyway, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah,
So,
yeah. Yeah,
uh,
I'm looking forward to those pretzels again. That was awesome. The pretzel wagon was much
Okay.
appreciated. Yeah.
Make sure Chris knows you appreciate his pretzels.
Yeah, they were great. They were great.
Good. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Leanne.
Yeah.
This was a lot of fun.
Thanks, David. Thanks for having me.
All right, and we'll see you in a few weeks.
All right. Take care. I'll see you.
All right. Bye-bye. And thank you all for tuning in. And the show is going to be September 20th, 21st, and 22nd. That's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at Rittenhouse Square Park in Center City, Philadelphia. It's going to be a beautiful place to be and a beautiful time of year to be there. So thank you for tuning in, and see you all soon.